Hello everyone, Rene hopping in before the episode starts here to let you know, 1, I apologize for the delay on this episode being uploaded, and 2, I guess just why, which is I lost power earlier this week and I lost all progress I'd made on this episode, so if this episode's a little shorter, it's because I'm basically re-recording it, and it's kind of a recap, but hopefully I get a little further than I did before, and I can still provide a fun episode that doesn't just feel like me doing a total redo. So enjoy as Iorlas explores the Chetwood in search of Drustan the Mercenary and his band, along with some foresters of Archet. The episode begins at the same tension at the end of the last episode, where Iorlas is walking through the Chetwood in the late hours of the day, early evening, and an arrow flings itself into the bark of a sturdy tree. He sees one man standing there, mistaking him for an orc, but he calls out that he is a ranger, a messenger, no stranger to these parts. And the man comes out of the shadows of the Chetwood, and we see for the first time Fitch Talltree, a man of Archet, a forester, and indeed, not a stranger to Iorlas. As a messenger, he regularly travels these routes. Bree is a big village that is a place that he would have gone through many a time, and I think that a messenger, a ranger of the north, a Dunedain would have found and known of the small villages and hamlets and communities within the Chetwood over the years that he has been traveling this area, this region. So, we see Fitch as he walks forward and he says, "Apologies, Ranger. If there are other strangers in these woods, I'd like to see them out. And if you'd help me find them, especially if they're criminals with you chasing them, I think we could do better together." Iorlas is tired, exhausted. He was hoping for a night's rest in Bree, but he cannot let Drustan the Mercenary, servant of Saruman, who, at this point in the Middle-earth lore, is not outwardly evil and working for Sauron and creating orcs at Isengard and Orthanc, but regardless, something is not adding up to Iorlas, and to escape imprisonment and whatever simple trial, he could have defended himself and said that he was doing work for one of the wizards and anything like that. It just seems guilty, and Iorlas wants answers. So, we're not really doing a travel journey roll here as we're moving out of the Chetwood. This is going to be more, I'm wondering if I want to do a skill challenge, which is something that's in the book and mechanically really cool, but I've watched a few interviews with people talking about this, especially one of the designers, and he says that they're overused, and I think that they work better in group games. So instead, I'm going to simplify this quite a bit and just make like 2 or 3 rolls within the Chetwood looking for this band that Drustan escaped with, and see if we can find it. I'm going to roll, I think Explore makes a lot of sense. We are exploring the Chetwood. This is not travel. This is not quite scanning. We do need to make our way through the woods, read the signs of, tracking and things like that. So I think hunting would also be valid. So I think I'm going to roll like 3 different checks and see if I can figure something out. The first will be exploring. And I'm going to give myself a bonus die to this because I am traveling with a forester of the Chetwood, of Archet. So I'm going to give myself a 3rd d6, rolling 1 feat die and 3 skill die against a target number of 15 for my wits. And that is a failure. That is only a 13. But there is an option in the game. On a failure, you can take a success with a woe. And this is a great rule, just in general, for any kind of gaming, if you are a GM or if you're playing solo and you don't want to be too hard on yourself. And believe me, I'm not afraid to punish my characters and put them in very, very rough spots, but I do feel like this is an opportunity where maybe the exhaustion of the day and the travel and everything is catching up to Iorlas, and he is attempting to follow Fitch through the Chetwood, but he's struggling to keep up, and also he's just not catching on to the things that a native of this wood wood. Wow, that was a sentence. I think that Fitch is maybe getting a little frustrated, and he kind of says like, all right, come on, move it along. It's getting too dark to really do much. We're going to lose them if we have to take much longer. And I'm going to let myself off the hook a little bit. There's going to be success with a woe. I promise this is going to play in soon. I'm going to now roll hunting to see if maybe Iorlas can pick up on some maybe broken twigs or clear signs of movement throughout the brush or something like that, the understory. We're going to roll hunting, which is same thing, feat die plus 2d6, but the target number is much lower. And on that one, we do succeed with a 15. So we're managing to pick up the pace a little bit. Iorlas is exhausted. I think that the woe that I'm going to take is I might just reduce my endurance by a small amount. Iorlas is just exhausted. And there is an option in the core rulebook that allows you to suffer endurance loss just from things like cold, falling, fire, suffocation, poison, or just general endurance loss from exhaustion. And I'm going to go ahead and roll 1 feat die, and if it comes up as an Eye of Sauron, oh boy, we're really hurting. If it's anything between 1 through 10, it's bruised with that much, and if it's a Gandalf rune, we actually managed to get out unscathed. Oh my gosh, I did roll an Eye of Sauron. Okay. Instead of reducing Iorlas' endurance to 2, which seems excessive because he's currently at 17, I think instead what I will do is consider the success with a woe to be that we managed to actually pick up the trail of this band. And we're traveling through the Chetwood, and these are servants of Saruman, and through some means, one, we rolled an Eye of Sauron, so I need to increase my eye awareness. And I'm going to actually roll a feat die again. Depending on what the result of it is from the ill fortune table, maybe we'll use that, but otherwise I think it'd be actually really interesting to use the Eye of Sauron result from the traveling in the Chetwood table. But if this one comes up better, let's see, we're going to roll on the ill fortune table and get an 8, which says an old injury or stress resurfaces, which seems good, honestly. I think that would make a lot of sense, but we don't really have an old injury or stress to pull on unless we consider it Fitch's injury or old stress, which plays perfectly into the Eye of Sauron result of the traveling in the Chetwood table, which says Troll of the Weather Hills. And we can go ahead and say that maybe Drustan and his fellowship, his dark fellowship, somehow made contact with a notorious troll known to inhabit the hills north of the Chetwood, and tell it that they need assistance, and that there would be something in it for the troll. And the troll is now tearing through the Chetwood, making no effort at subtlety or stealth. In the dark, it does not have to worry about light. In the morning, the light of the sun, which would bring it and cause it to turn to stone. It is in search of what this says is a fresh meal. And Fitch is a long-known person who desires revenge against this troll for killing his father. We will say that it is very likely that Iorlas knows this story if he knows of Archet and Fitch and the small community that lives in this wood. Let's go ahead and roll for it. He absolutely does. Well, I guess now we're gonna fight a troll. Oh boy. Well, I'm going to also consider Fitch Talltree a combatant in this fight. I don't have a stat block for Fitch, but I have some traits that he can use, and we are just gonna make some stuff up, and he's pretty much just gonna be rolling bows because he is an archer. But, oof, okay. This is not where I expected this to go. Oh, wow. I just looked at the stat blocks for trolls, and we are going to go with the simplest of them, which is a cave troll slinker. It feels appropriate. It says here, this breed of cave troll is smaller than many of its kin, but still larger than most orc kind. Used to live in the depths of the earth, cave troll slinker often hunts alone and in the dark, relying on its acute sense of smell. Okay, that seems right. It has 50 endurance, and does a ton of damage. It has a bunch of fell abilities. Things are about to get rough as this thing is taking trees down and rushing through the Chetwood. And for the sake of this cave troll has been beckoned and called upon by Saruman and his dangerous fellowship, somehow led by Drustin and these others, and they are absolutely using its presence to cover their escape. So we're going to have to deal with them another time, or maybe never. I don't know if we'll ever catch these ones. So here goes. We're going to fight a cave troll. Okay, so let's talk about combat again. Combat always begins with opening volleys. And as just described, this troll is making no attempt to not be obvious, as it is just mowing down trees and running. We even hear its voice something like, "I smell men and I'm hungry." And it's barreling through the Chetwood, and the sound of this troll's voice makes Fitch just lose it. And Iorlas looks at him and says, "Fitch, don't be hasty now." And Fitch, of course, says, "For my father." And he's going to pull his famous Archet bow, and Iorlas is going to grab his bow, and both are going to be able to make an attack against this troll as it bursts through the trees, and we are going to get our opening volleys. The troll does not have any ranged attacks, so we're not going to take one for it. It's just going to get shot a couple of times, and hopefully we can do a little bit of damage to soften this thing up, because it's going to be rough. So let's go ahead and take Iorlas' shot first, which is going to be using his bow's proficiency, which is 2 ranks. So we're going to roll our feat die plus 2d6, and we're going to go up against our strength TN of 12, plus whatever our enemy's parry score is. But trolls are big and not trying to avoid hits. They're just really leaning on their large size and strength, and we are going to just have to beat a 12 with this. Let's see if we can get a really good result. Well, I succeed just barely on attacking, but I don't get any 6s, no Tengwar runes, no Gandalf rune on my shot. So simply, I am just going to deal damage to this troll's endurance equal to the bow's damage rating, which is 3. So this troll is down to 47 endurance, and it has a ridiculous fell ability that you will learn about soon. And now we will roll for Fitch, who I'm going to give a 3rd d6 because the Foresters of Archet are noted bowmen. So we're going to roll a d12 and 3d6, and we'll just use my attribute scores for Fitch as well. Here goes. And that's much better. That is going to be, it's absolutely going to succeed. Not a Gandalf rune, but 1 6. So let's see if there are any abilities that we can give Fitch that will help us overcome this troll, because it's about to get real messy. Oh, actually, this is perfect. I got a 9 on my feat die, and bows have the pierce ability, which I can use with the Tengwar rune to increase its attack by +2, making it potentially a piercing blow for Fitch. Now, a piercing blow, like we've done multiple times before, requires the troll now to succeed on a protection roll. Now, trolls are incredibly thick-skinned, so they actually have an ability that they can spend 1 of their hate to gain 2 additional dice on a protection roll. I'm going to spend 1 of those hate because in reading the solo rules again, it says if they have a fell ability, they're going to use it. So that's going to be 1 of his 6 hate for this troll. And its armor is 3, so this thing is rolling a d12 plus 5d6 to overcome the injury rating of Fitch's bow, which I'm going to make a little better than my bow. My bow is a 14. Archet bows are very notable, and they are storied. I don't think there is stuff about Archet bows, but it isn't about their injury rating. Let me actually check a great bow stat, and we'll just use that. Okay, so that would be 16, so d12 plus 5d6, almost impossible not to get a 16. Although, hold on, that is 2 1s, a 2, so that's 4, 8, 14, and then a Gandalf rune. And I've been wondering about this. If I roll an Eye of Sauron and that counts as a 0 for me, If the enemies roll a Gandalf rune, does that count as a 0 for them? Because that would mean that this is actually going to result in an injury and reduce its might from 2 to 1, making this combat much more doable. It is flipped. It is. So that means that's a 0. So I only got a 14 for this protection roll on a d12 and 5d6, meaning Fitch puts an arrow right in this troll's eye, and this thing, as it crashes through the trees, and then Fitch looks at Iorlas, and he throws his Archet bow down, and he looks and he says, "For my father!" And he's going to pull his sword, and he is going to rush this troll. It says right in his NPC profile for Fitch Talltree of Archet Forester. It says here, if you go with him, he actually wants you to go after this troll. So I brought the troll to us because of a Eye of Sauron on the die. So it says here, Fitch is consumed by his lust for revenge, and player characters must find a way to defeat the brute as Forester charges headlong into battle and likely his death. So this is perfect. Wow, this is such an awesome moment where Iorlas came into this wood to find someone he's been pursuing, only for someone or a troll, something evil that killed his father, to come to Fitch, burst through these trees, and now Iorlas is going to try and save this man from his own destructive lust. Okay, now we are going to enter combat proper after the opening volleys, and we're going to, yikes, go into a fight against a troll. However, that piercing blow resulted in a wound that reduces its might, so it goes from 2, normally it would have been able to take 2 attacks per round, down to 1, making this much more doable. I was planning on using the Strider mode solo adventurer's skirmish stance in combat for Iorlas, which is using your bow and constantly moving around the battlefield, but I think that if Iorlas sees Fitch run in with his sword, he is not going to abandon this man to being the only target of potential heavy, brutal blows from a troll. So he is going to also throw down his bow, and we're both going to run into close combat with a troll. This is so stupid. Okay, here goes. Iorlas is going to rush in defensive stance to protect Fitch from his own destructive tendencies here, and Fitch is going to run in forward stance to just hit as hard as he possibly can. Iorlas is going to take the defensive combat task action, Protect Companion, and then we'll see what happens. Actually, I take that back. There is an order to combat, and because Fitch is acting in forward stance, he actually gets to go first, and Iorlas will have to act after that. Alright, so let's see how Fitch does in rushing this cave troll that has taken the life of his father, and he has been seeking revenge on for years, not getting anyone to go out to the Weather Hills. Instead, it comes to him, and Iorlas is rushing in after him. Fitch, no! And he pulls his sword and swings, and that is a terrible roll. That is absolutely going to be a miss. I don't think there's anything I can do about this. Hold on, but with the forward stance, I believe he gets an additional d6, but all attacks aimed at him also get a d6. I need a 6 on this roll to succeed, and I get a 1. So, Fitch runs in, Iorlas screams, "No!" and the troll knocks down trees, pulls the arrow out of its eye, and looks down at Fitch, who rushes to try and slash at him with his sword, but he just reaches down and swats Fitch away. But before he can do so, actually, we still get to act, and Iorlas is going to run forward, and we're going to use that combat task to Protect a Companion, which is a special combat task ability. It's a main action I can use when I'm in the defensive stance in open combat and close combat. And it says here, to do so, the acting player makes a battle roll. And if I succeed, the attack that the troll is going to get against Fitch is going to lose 1 die, and if I get 6s, those reduce the number of dice as well. So I'm going to be rolling a feat die and 2 skill dice because the rank in battle that I have is 2. So I'm rolling this against a target number of 12. And that is the complete opposite of the roll that I just got for Fitch. That is a Gandalf rune and a 6. So that is an automatic success, plus another 1 die for each. So this troll is rolling an attack against Fitch, but it's losing 2 d6 on that roll. And I'm going to roll the feat die again on the fortune table and see if anything comes up. I get a 10, which on the fortune table says, you encounter an opportunity suited to your nature or abilities. Well, we're going to think about what that means for after the combat is over. Now it is the troll's turn to attack, and Fitch recklessly ran in. It's losing 2 die from my protect companion. It does get an additional die because Fitch was so aggressive that he went in with the forward stance, so it gets an additional die against attacking him. So it is a net -1 die, or d6 skill die, and this troll, oh boy. Oh, I believe I mentioned Fitch had a torch. Maybe I didn't. You know what? That's going to have to be something that happens next turn. The fell ability for this cave troll is that it is favored on attack rolls while in darkness, and we'll say that this is enough darkness, and maybe that's the opportunity that Iorlas realizes as he's rushing up. He's trying to protect Fitch, and you know what? Actually, let's go ahead and say that the reason that I protected him is that I have Nimloth's Tear in one hand, which is a famous blade, but then in my other hand, I pulled out and lit a torch, which as this troll rushes through and pulls the arrow out of its eye, it then sees the bright light of this torch and roars again and is going to swing. So it does not get favored, it is losing 1 die, and it is going to swing at Fitch with his club. So that is a d12 plus what would normally be 4d6. It's going to be 3d6. Oof, here goes. And we will use my parry score, just because I don't have a stat block for Fitch. So it needs to beat a 17. That is a 6 plus 6 plus 4 is a 16, so it actually misses again. So the torch in its eye, it lost 1 die. If we got 1 more die, nothing would have prevented that thing from hitting. The torch, waving it in its eye, makes this club come down and just narrowly miss Fitch as it slams into the ground. Dirt blasts up from the air, roots break underneath the floor of the Chetwood's forest and canopy in the dark, and the torch is being waved around, and Iorlas looks at Fitch and he yells. He says, "We have to fight smarter than that!" And now we are going to go into the second round of combat, I guess. It normally would have gotten a second attack because it has 2 might, but the arrow to the eye by Fitch's opening volley makes it a little bit fairer of a fight. Oh, and the torch that Iorlas lit triggers its Fear of Fire fell ability, which says the creature loses 1 hate at the start of each round it's engaged in close combat with an adversary wielding a torch or other burning item. So its hate is down from 6 all the way down to 4 already, and it will go down another as long as we stay in close combat, which both of us are. I think Iorlas's wisdom is going to pull Fitch back just a little bit to the open stance and not forward stance. Nope, he's still going to be in the forward stance. And then Iorlas, as much as he wants to stay in the defensive stance, is going to enter the open stance to maybe try and overwhelm this troll and attack. So once again, we're going to roll a feat die in 2d6 against a target number of 12 for Fitch's attack. And that is a 13, so we just get it. And that is going to deal 3 damage. I'm just flipping the damage numbers around for Fitch. His bow is better than his sword, and my sword is better than my bow. So that brings the troll's endurance down to 40. And then Iorlas is going to slice from the other side. Oh, hold on. Fitch would have gotten an additional d6. Let's see if it comes up as a 6. It does not. Just in case, that would have been able to deal a little more damage. And Iorlas is going to slash from behind to try and maybe hamstring this troll. We have 2 ranks in swords, so we are going to roll the exact same thing here. And we fail this time, as we are waving the torch around and we try and get around this thing, but now the troll is not looking at Fitch. It's looking at Iorlas, who's holding this fire. Okay, that changes things. I love this. Actually, this makes a lot of sense. The troll is going to try and put this fire out. Instead of attacking Fitch, who slashes at it, he barely feels it. He's thick-skinned. That is one of their literal fell abilities. He looks at Iorlas and just goes, "Put out the light!" And he's going to attempt to swat Iorlas with his club. This time, he's not losing any die from this, so it is d12 plus 3d6 against our parry of 17. I don't think he has any ability to do anything about this. He does not, so we're just going to roll. And I get another Gandalf rune for him, which counts as a 0, so that is going to be a miss as Iorlas gets Nimloth's tear up and manages to, with this legendary blade of Numenor, parry a troll's club swing. It still, basically numbs and deadens his arm, but it's enough to steal. The power of this blade is enough to at least just change the trajectory of this club swing so that Iorlas does not take a full brunt hit, and he's going to avoid this attack. Wow, we are getting insanely lucky. A couple rolls a different way. The damage that this troll puts out is crazy. I'm sure one of us will get hit. It loses another hate because of the fire nearby, down to 3. It is already halfway down. Hate is basically the stat that it will use to empower certain fell abilities and things like that. And we'll see one of them shortly, I assume. But here goes. We're going to move into the next combat. Fitch has not let up. He is absolutely still rolling with forward stance and just going nuts. He's not going to use the combat task Intimidate. He's just hacking. This is his opportunity. We do get a 6, a Tengwar rune on that attack, and this is a 17, so that will hit the troll. With a Tengwar rune, we can use a heavy blow with our sword, or with Fitch's sword, which I think makes more sense for how he would go about this than fending off. He is just going to strike a heavy blow to increase the amount of damage equal to strength rating. Our strength rating is 6, so we'll say that Fitch's is 5. So that will make the damage that he's going to deal 8, bringing the troll down to 32 endurance. Still more than halfway up. Iorlas remains in open stance, just trying to split this troll's attention in the forest here. It is getting very, very angry, but here goes. We're going to roll 1 feat die plus 2 skill dice. And oh my goodness, once again, Iorlas is going to fail, meaning that this troll still just wants to put out the fire. Here goes, but the distraction is working, right? This troll is going to lose another hate as it continues to just hate looking at this flame, this light here in the forest. It has come in here at the request of Drustan or some kind of dark powers of Sauron who is protecting his assets. We don't have to just really go into how it happened, but this troll is here now, and Iorlas is about to get attacked. The troll does have a bite attack, but I do think that the club makes the most sense. He's just swinging this thing, and for the record, I should probably mention this. Oh, you know what? I think I should have gotten hit at one point, because at one point I rolled a 16, but my buckler, I guess I could still have my buckler on. That is a small shield, and be holding the torch with it. So I'm gonna say it's okay. But here goes, d12, 3d6, oh, and here it is. I rolled an Eye of Sauron for the troll. That is the equivalent of us rolling a Gandalf rune. So this is immediately a piercing blow and potentially a wound on Iorlas. This is a big one. In addition to taking the 6 damage that comes from the heavy blow of a troll's enormous club, which brings our endurance down to 11, which is only 1 above our load. We are very close to becoming weary. We have to roll a protection roll. We get 2d6 because of our leather corselet, plus the feat die, and we need to overcome the injury rating of this troll's club, which is a 16. I do not think I can add dice to this from distinctive features or by spending hope, so I'm just going to roll d12 and 2d6, hoping to beat a 16. This is going to be very unlikely. Oh, well, I got a 6, but I also got a 1, and then the feat die is a 4 for an 11, which means that Iorlas is going to take a wound from this hit from a troll. Let's read about wounds. When a player character is wounded for the first time, they immediately check the wounded box on their character sheet, then roll on the wound severity table using a feat die. Okay, how bad is this injury? We're rolling a feat die, and I get a 9. So it is a severe injury. Oh my goodness, this is awful. This is bad. The value indicates how long it will take this injury to mend in days. Iorlas is going to be out of commission for a week and a half after this fight. Oh my gosh, it just crumples Iorlas. He tries to get his buckler up and his sword up to block this, but the troll has gone horizontal and just sweeps it, and it just cracks into him. I think that he definitely probably cracks a few ribs and hits a tree and goes down. The torch is, I'm going to say it's 50-50. Does the torch stay lit? It does, luckily, stay lit. So there is still fire. It is still losing hate. It is down to 1 hate. It is losing the ability to use its fell abilities, but Iorlas is crumpled down on the ground and he's shakily standing up, and you can see just how hurt he is. Fitch is just battle lust. He needs to, if anything, this has only fueled his rage in a way that he now wants to take this troll out even more. Now, I just double-checked the rules. Iorlas can continue fighting in combat, wounded, but there are no mechanical disadvantages that are given to him. And obviously, I could impose penalty dice or losses of dice or something like that, but really all it is doing is making it more likely that his endurance is going to drop, and it's more likely he gets hurt. So Fitch is really carrying everything here. He is in open stance for another round. We'll see how this goes, and we really need this to work. Oh my goodness. Okay. Yikes. That is a Gandalf rune, which means that it is automatically a piercing blow. But I don't have any 6s on the dice, so I can't increase the amount of endurance loss this troll is going to take. It is down to 29 endurance, and it has a fell ability that will make this combat very, very scary. But if we manage to somehow succeed at this protection roll failing, then we get out of this somehow. I don't know how we will, but again, so this troll is super thick skin. It's going to spend its last hate to gain 2 die to this protection roll. It is down to 0 hate. It cannot do this again. This is a d12 and 5d6 to overcome a 16, and it will easily do so. That is 11, 17, 18, 20. Yeah, so it does not do that. It still takes the endurance damage as Fitch slashes at this troll, and it should have been a much, much deeper strike and cut, but the troll turns and looks at it, and just for the sake of drama, it takes a big whiff.
You smell familiar. I've had a meal like you before.
And Fitch looks livid. Iorlas is up. I think that Iorlas is going to switch to rearward stance. He kind of starts just falling back. His ribs hurt so badly, and this, in real life, this would hurt so badly. But Iorlas is going to take a shot with his bow. That movement, if with a broken rib, I can't even imagine how painful that would be. But Iorlas is going to take a shot from the rearward stance. He can do so because there is at least one ally in combat with the troll in close combat. And I was debating whether or not I wanted to use the combat task Prepare Shot. You know what? I think I am. I'm going to use Prepare Shot, which allows us to use Scan for our main action for the round. And if we succeed, we'll get an additional d6 on our next ranged attack, plus another d6 if we roll Tangwar runes. Our Scan is only 1d6, but you know what? I think it's worth a shot just to see if we get it. The target number is 15, and that was a waste of a turn because I rolled 4 total. Yikes. Okay, maybe that's what it was, is he was planning on lining up his shot, but Iorlas goes and he raises his bow and he starts to pull it back, and he realizes how much pain this is going to cause to shoot his bow, but he cannot in good conscience rush into combat again, this injured, this wounded. So he looks at Fitch and he calls out and he says, like,
Make it fast!
And the troll is up. The troll is going to attack Fitch. Okay, it has no hate left, so it can't use some of its fell abilities. It is not dark, so there's that at least. And he's going to attack Fitch. D12 and 3d6, but that is really bad. That is 4, 8, 11. That is a miss as Fitch is looking. I mean, he just got told that he smells like a familiar meal. Fitch is in the closest to a full blind rage combat state that he's ever been in his life, and he is going to swing again. So here goes. We're going to roll. Oh, he would have gotten one more d6. That was 4, 8, 11. 15, still not enough to overcome our parry. So here goes. Fitch is going to swing with his sword. We succeed, and we get a d6, so we can deal an additional amount of damage equal to our strength. So that is again going to be 3 plus 5 is 8, so down to 21 endurance for the troll, slowly whittling away. 21 is still no joke. That's way more than Drustan ever had. And these two men in the woods are fighting against a notorious troll in the Chetwood, in around this region, and Iorlas is gritting his teeth. He is probably, tastes blood. Just every action, every stretch of this bowstring hurts, but he is going to shoot his bow. We have a ranking of 2 in bows, so here comes the shot. Ooh, that's a huge roll. That is a 7 plus 10, so 17 to hit with a Tengwar rune. So that's really good. That's going to be a hit, so he'll take 3 damage from my bow, down to 18 endurance, but with that d6, what is the additional thing I can do with a bow? Oh, the only thing I can do is pierce, which would increase the d12 to a 9, so close to a piercing blow, but not quite. Oh no, I can do a heavy blow with any weapon. Oh, that's cool. So I can increase the damage by the amount of my strength, so I'll actually reduce it another 6 to bring it to 12 endurance. So I think that this arrow just really gets deep into this troll, like right in the back of its neck, and it kind of like, and it tries to pull it out, and we see like a big splurt of troll blood as it turns and just goes,
All right, enough of you.
Let's see, well, that was our turn. I'm gonna roll a d12. If it's even, it will be Iorlas that gets attacked. If it's odd or a Gandalf rune, it will be Fitch. That is even. The troll lumbers over towards Iorlas, who is scrambling away. Oh, he's technically in rearward stance. He can't. So I think that Fitch will get in the way, and he's going to attack Fitch. We have no hate remaining, but we get a Gandalf rune. Still get a 14 huge rolls for the troll, a 6, 5, and a 4, but the Gandalf rune counts as 0, which means that is still a miss, as Fitch is going to intervene and not let the troll attack Iorlas. All right, this should be the last round. Let's find out. Fitch is going to roll. Actually, I rolled the additional die, which you would have gotten from forward stance, and got a 1. So Fitch does not get hit. Here goes. This is going to be Fitch's attack against the troll, against our target number of 12. That is going to be a hit with a 6. So that is going to be another 8, down to 4 endurance. Now here's where this fight is going to get really, really scary. Iorlas is going to take a shot with the bow. And we are going to hit with a Tengwar rune, enough to reduce this troll's endurance down to 0, which would cause a wound and reduce its might to 0. However, all trolls have a fell ability called Hideous Toughness. When an attack inflicts damage to the creature that would cause it to go to 0 endurance, it causes a piercing blow instead. Then, if the creature is still alive, it returns to full endurance, back to 50 hit points. Okay, this is a piercing blow from Iorlas's arrow. A huge slash across this troll's gut from Fitch is holding it in place, and Iorlas is going to shoot. The injury rating of Iorlas's bow is 14. The troll cannot get an additional 2d6 on its protection roll from hate any longer. So we are rolling 1 feat die, 3d6, hoping to get below a 14. Actually, I rolled an 11 on the feat die, which made me very nervous. But that actually is a 1 because my die are printed wrong. So that's 1 plus 4, 3, 2 is 5, 8, 10. That's a failure. Oh my gosh. This troll is lumbering towards us. He gets slashed across the stomach, this notorious troll of the Chetwood and the Weather Hills. And Fitch is standing there waiting for it to strike. And Iorlas's bow twangs one last time. We hear a wince of his broken ribs as this arrow flies and goes into the other. You know what? It goes into the exact same eye that Fitch hit in the opening volleys, and it buries itself deeper. And this troll roars and then falls back and hits the ground with a heavy, loud thump that echoes through the dark, quiet Chetwood forest. Fitch turns around and looks at Iorlas, coughing up blood, slumped against a tree, and he looks back at the troll, and he lets out a roar of victory before Iorlas passes out. All right. This is probably where I'm going to call this episode, but for the sake of bookkeeping, I did want to mention that one great thing about the One Ring is that, unlike other games, you don't have to, think about XP for every encounter and all these things. There's just set adventure and skill points that you get for every session you play, as well as a few ways you can get bonus points for these to then spend on increasing and improving your skills and all of these things. I think that over the course of these first 3 sessions, I've participated in a council, which gives us a skill point. I've faced a noteworthy encounter during a journey. I would say that was Drustin. And I've also survived a dangerous combat, which is a adventure point. So, there's a few other ones. I've accepted missions from patrons, which got me 2 adventure points as well. I have not completed my meaningful journey. There's a few things, but I think that given the wound that Iorlas has just suffered, what he has done for Fitch in his personal journey, in his goal for revenge against this troll that killed his father, when Iorlas comes to, he awakens in a simple wooden bed frame, moss bed, goose feather pillows, simple cabin in the woods, part of the small community that is Archet within the Chetwood. And he sits up and feels that stretch in his ribs. They are wound with bandages, and he looks off to the side and sees Nimloth's tear in its sheath and his cloak and all of his different things. And he looks around and sees Fitch's wife. She calls out the door, "Oi, he's awake!" It's been a few days. I'm going to roll real quick on just to see if anybody in the town of Archet has healing. There is a way to more quickly improve wounds, so I'm just going to go ahead and say that maybe I'm going to roll twice and see if we can reduce the number of days it would take to heal. I'm going to give him 1d6. You know what? There's a healer in the town. We'll give him 2d6. That is a failure and another failure. So it's not easy. You can't speed up healing broken ribs, right? So unfortunately, I think that Iorlas is going to be in Archet for 9 days. And we're going to cut our journey a little short. And maybe we're going to do a fellowship phase. And we're going to spend some of our accrued points, and I'll go over what all of that means next time as we catch up with Iorlas after a week off, recovering from his injuries. Thank you for your patience on this episode coming out a little late because I had to re-record it, and in re-recording it, that went a lot differently than it went the first time. I actually think I like this version better than what I did. Drustin gets away with his dangerous fellowship, but fighting that troll was really epic, and it definitely postponed our journey to Fornost Arrain, as well as when eventually we will get to the Erenvorn, the cape, the forest cape down to the south for Círdan the shipwright. This ended up waylaying us quite a bit, but you know what? I really love the pacing that this game forces you to think about. Recently read a great essay about how important travel and pacing and timing of all of that plays into the importance of Lord of the Rings and the stories that Tolkien was telling. And I think the game nails how that feels, right? Because if you set deadlines or if time is a crunch, right? A great tool for GMs is if it takes too long, well, then the enemy is going to move forward in their goals. The shadow is spreading. Maybe when we eventually get to Fornos Lorraine, this 9 days that we had to spend recovering in Archet is going to matter. Or maybe the 9 days that Drustan got a head start on Iorlas getting out of the area of Bree is going to matter when we get to Erenvorn. Who knows? So, I hope that you're enjoying this series of The One Ring, and if you like it, you can find me on the internet places, Rene Plays Games, look it up, or you can email me at raineyplaysgamespod@gmail.com. I love hearing from anybody about ideas or things that you like, or just letting me know that you're enjoying it. And yeah, if you want to talk to me about games or anything like that, you can email or join the DMs After Dark Discord. There's a link in the podcast description here. Our little community is growing. We talk a lot about games, we talk about the world, we talk about life, we talk about hobbies and pets. The pets channel pops off. It's crazy. If you like pets and cats and dogs and stuff, you should join. And yeah, I think that's all I'm going to say now. So until next time, don't be afraid to tank a hit for a friend if it helps them reach a little catharsis.